Hey everyone, I'm just giving it one moment here, grabbing a drink of water, and then I'll go ahead and get started. I do want to let you know that the comments and camera are completely pointed away from me, so I'll jump in and out just to see who's popped on and say hi. Looks like Mary Jo and Linda. Hello. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to turn this off for the moment. So this month's episode is about the Decofoil Minc transfer system. And you can use any brands. That just happens to be the two brands that I bought when I first kind of got into this. So what there is this is a Minc machine. If you have been watching HSN recently, you'll know the Gemini also just came out with a Gemini foil press. That's sort of their version. There are other machines. This is a Heidi Swap. Minc is hers. And they come in small sizes. This is a standard size. I'm not sure if there's a larger one. But there are a couple different brands out there. I actually bought mine. It was sort of on clearance at a Tuesday morning. But you can get them online. You can get them in some stores. Next up, in order to do this, you need the machine. All it is this machine. There's a slot that you run stuff through, and I'll do that as I go along. And this is just a 31 bag that worked perfectly for holding all of the different foil colors. So like pens or coloring pencils, there's one per color. Sometimes there's varying shades. So each one of these containers is a different color. Some of them are iridescent. Just to give you an example, kind of a little pearlescent. This one's called Opal. Other ones are solid colors. This one's called Copper. And there's blues and reds and greens, and then there's mixes somewhere in here. Yep, this one's called a Summer Rainbow. So it's kind of got yellows and pinks and sort of purples in there. And I just want to make sure, yep, you can see that. Hi Sherry, hey Dawn. If there's anybody I missed, I'm sorry about that. The camera's pointed away this time, so you can actually read the things that I'm showing you. So what that means, I don't actually have a separate computer set up, so I will miss comments, but I will watch the video back and respond to any questions that you have, and I'll also occasionally look, kind of get outside of the camera and take a look and see what you're saying. So you need the machine. You need some kind of foil. Now Decofoil, the company that the brand it's under is called iCraft. It's made by Thermoweb. Gina K also has foils, and in this section I'll just show you a couple of hers. So this is like a sample of hers. So this one's called Dazzling Orange. I evidently thought I needed some more for fall. And, she's got, you can tell here, there's all these different colors and such with it. You can see it's very shiny and reflective. That's the whole purpose of this, is to be able to get that reflectiveness. So there are some other brands, foil as well. As I said, HSN Gemini's come out with some, and there's a couple others. I've pretty much just, as you can tell, this is full. So I'm not really buying any more colors or any other brands that have come out since here. So just to repeat, you need the machine, you need some kind of foil color. The last thing you need is something to actually foil. Now there's two ways you can go about that. The other section here has a whole bunch of different options for you. So I'll show a couple. There are, again, Gina K as well as some other brands handle these. So sometimes there's an actual design itself. So this has two different design patterns that you can use. And then sometimes there are sayings. So for example, this was a sheet that I bought at a kind of a little stamp and scrap bow, or stamp and scrap book. Not really an expo, it wasn't that large, but it was something a little bit smaller. The machine Hey Sylvia. Hi Erin. So the machine, if I remember correctly when I bought it, it might have been about $75. I know that there are cheaper, and I said there is a smaller version. So a lot of this is more for card making, but you can actually also accent things for your scrapbook pages. This is one thing I've typically done just for cards, and I don't even buy my own cards anymore. I'll just sit down one evening and I'll pop out, I'll just do one page, and that page alone will get me, just right here you can see 6 different birthday cards, and then boom, you're pretty much done. So just to give you a little flavor of what these would look like, typically this would be almost a statement, like you could actually stamp these, but what they did was they already basically imprinted it for you, and then you just have to add the color to it. There are also things like little statements, so you've got images, you happen to have this is bride and groom, this is kind of like a little recipe for love. So there's everything. There's Christmas, there's Halloween. Has anyone seen my mojo? There's everything under the sun. So you can actually get these that are pre-printed with a specific category. This one's called creativity. This one's called wedding. Or if you have a laser printer, you can print off any image in black and white, and you can actually use that. So for example, here are some that I have. Hey Courtney, hey Yvonne. So here's some that I have printed off. Of course, I have 2 golden retrievers. I'm gonna have something about a dog. You guys know that about me by now. I love music. Here's some wedding things. The smallest handcuffs in the world. You can do larger images. Of course, there's a dog. There's a dolphin. Music, another statement that actually has some different coloring in it. So we're going to actually do that one so I can show you what happens when it didn't print fully black and white. And this is an image that you might have actually seen on some kind of card already. So you can print off any image from any any website, any clip art, anything like that you want. Obviously, this kind of line drawing is what you would really prefer to do versus like an actual portrait. An actual photo, a realistic photo, is not something that you would really use this for. So again, lots of different colors. I've pulled out a couple just to run through a couple samples for you. And I'll actually show you some that we've already done, or that I've already done quickly for you. It goes really quick. This happens to be the sheet that you basically will put the paper and the color in, and then you'll just close it up and then you'll run it through the machine. The reason I'm showing this to you is this is a size that actually came with the machine initially, and if I'm going to actually go out and buy a smaller one, because this is so long that it's going to run all the way through here, when in reality I only need about this much space. So I could cut this, but just in case I ever do something for scrapbook pages, I want to keep this size the way it is and just get a smaller version of this. You can actually even take, and I forget what it is right now, but there is something else that you can actually just take that most people have in their house and fold it over and run it through. You just need something that's not going to stick. I'll actually find out from my friend who actually taught me how to use my machine, and then I'll post it for you. So the one thing you need to do, and I should have done this at the beginning, is you turn it on there and then you turn this on. This actually has a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's specific to the amount of pressure that needs to get put on this. My understanding, I've been told, and I couldn't find my little booklet that came with the machine right beforehand, but the one thing that you do want, I think they said just for doing this kind of stuff, is just a 3. So you just, push the button until you get to 3, it's going to initially be red and then it'll start blinking. The blinking means it's not hot enough yet. Once it is hot enough, it will be green, and green means go. Now, it will take normally a little longer than this, but I had just used it right before I started the video, so the machine was still pretty warm. So, what I'm going to start with here is I'm going to take, as you saw, I showed you this set here with the hearts. So say you've got, you know, a birthday coming up, or you want to give just a special card to your loved one to thank them for something. This actually comes in a full sheet, and all I did was just cut it in half so I could actually get 2 cards out of it. And one of them I actually already did, and I'm going to show you that afterwards because I tested a color and it didn't really turn out so well, but I want to show you how this works first, and then I'll show you those differences. So all you do is just take the card, and I'm going to hold this up here and show you right now that this is just a regular blank card. You get a little shine just because of the nature of it, but there is no color on here yet. Hi, Dawn. So all you do is you just put the card in. You always want to put it up against the edge because that edge is what's going to go into the machine. And if it's over here, the edge might get a little floppy. So you always just put it up against there. And typically what you would do, I'm not going to do it in this instance, but what you would do is you would just cut down when you actually open up these. And let me grab one that's open to make it easier. You get all of these sheets in here. I think there's something like 8 sheets, and each sheet is this long. So you would just cut it down to the size that you need. It's not going to hurt anything if you just stick this on here like I am, because the color is only going to come off on the black areas, on whatever it is that you're trying to add the color to. It's not going to come off on the white areas. Okay, so I just want to make sure the bubbles are kind of out of there. So when you do this, you always want to put the color facing you, because it's actually going to transfer through onto the sheet. You might think that the color is on this side, but the color is actually going to transfer through from the back side. And that's what the machine is going to do, is it's going to transfer it through. So all you do once you have that in there is you just stick it in the machine, and then the machine grabs it on its own. So I'm just going to let go and just checking here. If you can see, the machine is grabbing it, it's running through, and it's about to come out the other side there in just a moment. Okay, it's starting to peek through. And this is one reason why I said, if you're only going to do a small thing like for cards, you'd want a small version, because I would be done right now. Or actually, I guess I would be done in about 5 seconds. But because I have the longer version, it's got to run this whole thing through it, and there is no pulling it. It is on an automatic roller system, and I would not want to try to damage that, because I'm not really sure there's a place you would take these to get them fixed. I think you might just have to buy a new one. But still, this takes normally, you know what, a minute. We've been chatting. It's almost done. I think it's probably about here at this point. So once it comes out, the one thing that they do tell you to do is to just burnish it lightly. You can do that with anything that you have that you normally would rub. You can use your finger. This is a full-size card, so I'm not going to use my finger. If you've got different things, I happen to have, I think this is a brayer or something, but really that's all I need. So I'm just going to set this, you can set it down anywhere. I'm just going to use the top of the Minc just for a second, and I'm literally just doing this. And that's really just to make sure everything's settled into it nicely. And then you can go ahead and peel this back. I'm going to peel this off. And you're going to get 2 things. So here, I used sort of that hot pink, and let me try and capture the color a little bit here. That's always the hard part with these. There, you should be able to see a little bit of it. Yeah, exactly, Dawn. It's kind of like a laminator, and it's just actually transferring the color over to it. So this actually has a pink tint to it now. So what you get is it actually stuck only again to the black, not to the white parts of the card, as you can tell. But what you also get is you get the leave behinds. Now the leave behind by itself is almost another card. You, if you wanted to, could adhere this down to a card, or you could adhere this down to the background of a photo. Maybe this could be matting for a photo. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. And the nice thing about it is if you're actually doing something that it doesn't take up the whole space like this does, all you do is you just save those remnants for the next time that you have something small that you need color on. You might, for example, we didn't, but you could have done, okay, maybe one half of the card is one color, the top half and to the left, and then the bottom right could have been a different color. So there's definitely a few things there. Linda, this was perfect timing then, wasn't it? It really is quick. I mean, it's that quick. You just grab whatever it is you want to color, you grab your color, put it in, and a minute later you're done. So what I wanted to show you next was, and I'm going to stick this over here, is remember when I said these different images? I just printed this out on my laser printer. So we're going to actually cut this one out right now. And then we're going to go ahead and color this. So in here, if you can tell, there's already like 3 shades or 4 shades of blue going on. So we're going to see whether it just does the when we love is in, there's a in R, or if it's also going to do the words that are blue. So let's just go ahead and test that, because I have not actually tested this myself, so it's going to be learning for both of us. So let's say we want, I'm looking for, okay, I'm going to choose amethyst. So that'll end up being this purple color. Now some of these colors, that one came off easy. Sometimes it can be a little challenging to get it open the first time. Don't be surprised, I've had to pry it open a little bit, you know, just sticking the pen through there, or scissors through there, but a pen would work, you know, nail file, just about anything that you've got at hand. If you've got a really tiny finger, you could do that as well. So as I said, this is all wrapped together, and these are very, very thin, so you want to make sure you only grab the top one. And then what I typically do is just try to pull that one out, and then I will kind of try to get the other ones rolled back up as tight as it'll let me here. And then I will just kind of, it looks like I'm cramming it in here, but it does settle itself back out. If you notice, it managed to straighten itself out there, and just push that back down and put the cap back on. This is what the amethyst one looks like. So you notice there's actually, it's not just a solid color, it also happens to have a little bit of those extra bits to it. So in this case, I am going to cut this, and I only need about this much. There we go. I'm just going to set the extra aside for now. Again, we'll just stick this in. Now, if you do have the Gemini foil press, that one works a little different than this. But if you have a Minc or another brand that shows it exactly the way that I'm doing it, then these would be the simple instructions you would use. So I put that in there. I'm just running it through. So what I did want to show you is a couple things that I already had done. in the interim. So this is the one that I just did for you guys. You can definitely see more of the pink there. In person, you can see it quite a bit more. It just happens to be a little challenging right now on this one. This is one that I also did. And it's very hard to see, but you can kind of see in there, there's some purple, a little bit of silver, some pinks and such. That was actually using this color. So I was curious if it would have picked up this lightness. It did, but it's so light. And I think the main reason for that is these hearts are so small that to transfer that much color around is a little challenging. And that's why you can definitely see things more on the top one than you can on this one. But if these was a larger image, then that kind of swirl pattern would have come through. So that's kind of something, a little tip just to know about the coloring of these, is that if you have little small intricate things that you want done, I would definitely pick a color that's a little bit more darker or vibrant, not something muted, because you may not be able to see it as much. It is kind of hard to see in person even. It's a little hard to see. You can tell that it has some kind of coloration to it, but it's definitely more challenging. This one's very clear. Okay, so this is done. Again, I'm just gonna, if you accidentally hit the button and it moved it to the next number, you just go ahead and move it back. So here, okay, we have our answer. So again, this is the cutout that you could use for something else. And this is what happened. If you remember the large words, the someone, the heaven, and the home, those were all in shades of blue. Because it was still created by a laser printer, it did change that color. You can tell everything on here is purple. Hopefully you guys can see that as I, you know, kind of share this. So all those big words are no longer the blues that they were. They are purple. So that is our answer. Now, there's just a couple other things I wanted to show you. So I pulled out a couple cards because let's take this one that we did with the pink. You could cut it down to size. It actually matches exactly this particular card that I have, and I'm not sure what size it is, but if you've got larger cards, this will work. If you want it to work on this and you're afraid of, like, you know how sometimes it's a little hard to actually adhere it and you get that angle a little bit off, you can just trim this down a little bit, take off 1/4 of an inch, you know, on one side and then the long side as well. And then that, you know, will give you that little overlap. Hi, Kathy. So this could be this start, for example. Or you could actually put some cardstock behind it that gives it a little extra color. And then say this is actually another card that I have that's like in a blush pink. But you could actually put a cardstock behind it. You could do a different color behind it. And then if you wanted, you could still add a statement on here, or you could put a stamp on here. You could definitely add more to this. This demonstration is more just showing about the machine itself. So something else that I did here, let me dig it out for you. Okay, so right before this video, I also took this. This was an image from my laser printer as well, and it was all black, and it just said fall, and it had these pumpkins on it. So you can color inside of these. So this was a perfect image that I decided, I don't think this should stay like that. I think I really should make the pumpkins actually be a pumpkin color. So I actually did 3 different things. If you happen to have something like the Nouveau glitter markers. That's what the bottom one is. And if you notice, you actually get that glitter, just like you get the kind of coppery color that I used for the fall and the pumpkins. You actually also get that glitter from this. Or if you have a Copic or Spectrum Noir markers or anything, that's what the middle ones are for. That's what I used here. So this one just was YR04. Not even sure what that means other than yellow red. I figured out that part of the code, and it's one of the lighter colors. And then the top one, if you're like most people, you might just have, you know, a recollections marker or a creative memories old marker or something. And that's really what the top one is. And there's not really any difference to, you know, whatever is. This is basically, I did this to show you that you can use whatever it is that you have to kind of add and even make it a little bit more creative to it. So just right now, quickly, I'm going to just finish this card off here, just so you can see what it would look like, or at least this image, just from going ahead and finishing this. Because I know sometimes it's a little hard to see the whole thing if it's not done. Okay, so that's the top one. This is the right side. And the nice thing about these is, especially with the alcohol marker here, is that it's not really, the color's not really mixing too much with the toner ink. I would definitely recommend that if you're going to color it, you just set it aside for a minute just so that the heat from running through this machine, because this machine is pretty hot. I would recommend that you just let it cool for a minute. It cools very quickly because it's just a piece of paper. And then lastly, here's the glitter marker one. That one I noticed a little bit of blending, so I'm being a little bit more cautious around the edges here where the toner paper was. Otherwise, this works very, very quickly. It's something that unless you have it sitting out, you may find, like I did originally, that you don't use it a lot unless you make a whole bunch of cards at one time or make a whole bunch of images at one time. Okay, so that quick, I just finished this whole thing. Hey, Michelle. And so again, the bottom one was just using the Nouveau glitter markers. The middle one was using a Copic, and the top one was just using a regular generic recollections marker that you can find at Michael's, Joann's, etc. So that really was what I wanted to talk about here. I actually am going to do a separate video now showing you my haul from the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo, but I am just going to give you a sneak peek of a couple things, just to show you an example. So I actually had taken an alcohol, like a beginning alcohol coloring class. So that was kind of what I did there. I took a class where I got to use Swarovski crystals, and I am an addict with Swarovski, just in general. And so every one of these shiny things are crystals. And this actually is a magnet card as well. So they showed us how to hide that. This was another version of a card that we made. Again, all these flowers here in that is Swarovski crystals. This was also another one. Those two were from a class. This was just from a make and take that we did with them, where it's a little bit of a dimensional thing. This was a class that was, or actually a make and take from the Crop for Cause booth, which those of you who are local know that that's something close to my heart. So we actually got to use stencils. We got to use the new J brush that Creek Bank sells, and then got to make that cute card. And lastly, this was a make and take card from the Thursday night thing. Unfortunately, I lost my mixing bowl, but it was just something, you know, everything was cut out and you just kind of put it together. So with that, the only other thing that I want to say is the next video is going to be the end of September, September 25th. It's going to be, it's labeled card making ideas. And of course the phone is ringing, so I definitely want you guys to give me some ideas of what you might like to see. And then just was checking to see who that was. And then I also have some ideas. There will be some repetition with the class that I did last year, that I'll be pulling ideas from different classes. Otherwise, that's really just what I wanted to say. I hope you guys enjoyed. You got to see the machine in use. You got to see how quick it is. And have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thanks, everyone.